You're 13 years old, barefoot in the dust outside your family's house in 1565, the Ottoman Empire, when the sound of hooves shatters the air. A black carriage creaks to a stop, lacquered wood glinting like obsidian in the sun. The men who step out aren't here to buy grain. They're here for you. Janissaries in polished helmets, soldiers who serve the Sultan himself. They don't ask questions. They look at you like you're a horse at auction, teeth inspected, skin pinched, hips measured with eyes sharp as butcher knives. You don't feel like a girl anymore. You feel like inventory. Your father hesitates, but not for long. A heavy purse of gold coins hits his palm. And suddenly his eyes won't meet yours. Your mother lunges forward, wailing, clawing at your sleeve until a soldier shoves her back into the dirt. Her sobs echo as the carriage door slams shut. The wheels rattle, carrying you away from everything you've ever known. Not as a bride, not even as a servant. You've just been sold as a concubine. Congratulations. You're now considered valuable property, like a particularly nice goat. Only goats usually get to keep their dignity. The carriage jolts to a stop after hours on the road, and when the doors open, the world that swallows you is Topkapi Palace, the beating heart of the Ottoman Empire. From the outside it looks like a jewel. Sprawling courtyards lined with cypress trees, marble fountains trickling like veins of silver, domes rising like watchful eyes, but the walls tower high. And you know immediately what they are, not decoration, but containment. You're not walking into paradise. You're walking into a cage dressed in silk. The gates groan open, and you're herded inside with a handful of other terrified girls. Soldiers don't even look at you, you're already beneath notice. In the imperial harem, the doors slam behind you with a finality that rattles your bones. The sound is clear enough. Freedom just ended. Then the stripping begins. Your clothes are torn away. You stand naked under the vaulted ceiling, a trembling child turned into an object. Buckets of water laced with lime and rosewater are dumped over you, stinging your skin raw. Supposedly, it's to purify. In truth, it's to scour away whatever scraps of dignity you thought you had left. The rosewater clings like perfume at a funeral, sweet, but suffocating. Next come the eunuchs, tall, silent, and watchful. Many dragged from Africa or the Balkans, men remade into something neither fully man nor woman. Their eyes are cold, professional. They handle you the way merchants handle fabric, stretching arms, checking teeth, running calloused fingers over your scalp. You're not a girl anymore. You're a ledger entry. One of them notes the slope of your hips, another the pallor of your skin, scratching marks into a parchment as though cataloging livestock. Around you, sobs echo. A girl with crooked teeth is shoved aside, deemed unworthy. Another is slapped for trembling too much. Your turn comes and goes in silence. A quick glance, a mark on the page. You've passed. Humiliation sinks in like a second skin. You're not a daughter, not even a person. You're inventory, a piece of property, stacked neatly behind palace walls, and the Sultan hasn't even laid eyes on you yet. Life in the harem isn't some perfumed fantasy of cushions and pearls. It's military school in silk. You wake before dawn, not to birdsong, but to the bark of a eunuch dragging you to lessons. First, languages: Turkish for commands, Arabic for prayer, Persian for poetry. You repeat words until your tongue aches, mispronouncing once and earning a sharp crack across your knuckles. Then music: you're taught to sing verses that praise the Sultan, though your voice shakes more from fear than melody. Dancing, embroidery, reciting verses from Hafiz or Rumi, every move rehearsed, because one misstep could be fatal. And there's etiquette, the deadliest subject of all. You practice bowing low enough to honor a noble without looking like you're mocking him. You rehearse pouring sherbet into crystal goblets, coffee into porcelain cups, steady hands hiding the tremble in your gut. You're told your smile should charm, not seduce, unless, of course, you're with the Sultan, in which case hesitation could be mistaken for insult. Above all, you're drilled in obedience, and the whip is the punctuation mark on every lesson. Spill a drink, and you fast for a day. Forget a phrase, and your back feels the bamboo rod. Cry too loudly, and you're gagged until silence becomes natural. This isn't grooming, it's conditioning. At the top of this silken pyramid sits the valid Sultan, the Sultan's mother. The real power of the harem. She watches with hawk eyes, deciding which girls are worthy of rising and which should vanish into obscurity. Sometimes, you catch her gaze across the courtyard and feel the weight of empires pressing you into the marble. One word from her, and you're nothing, but the punishments sting less than the rivalries. The other concubines are not sisters, they're wolves in silk. A rival might slip ash into your food to make you vomit before an inspection, or smear ink on your robe so you're beaten for carelessness. And here, sabotage isn't cruelty, it's strategy. The cruelest truth. Many girls never even see the Sultan. They could spend years perfecting their smile, their step, their song, only to age into irrelevance behind gilded walls. You laugh bitterly at the joke whispered in the dormitories. Graduate at the top of your class, you might sleep with the most powerful man in the world. Fail. You might sleep under the palace floor. You learn quickly that the harem isn't just silk and song, it's a pit of sharks wearing pearls. Older concubines glide through the marble halls with smiles carved like blades, whispering just loud enough to slice your reputation in half. They don't fight with fists. They fight with poison slipped into sherbets, with rumors planted like landmines. One girl smiles too brightly at a eunuch. The next morning, she's gone, her bed stripped, her name never spoken again. Another dares to complain of hunger, and by nightfall, she's locked in a cell with nothing but water until her spirit breaks. The eunuchs enforce the silence. Their whips curl like snakes across your back for speaking out of turn, for laughing too freely, for forgetting that here, your tongue can kill you faster than any dagger. They're the watchers, eunuchs from Africa, the Balkans, even the Caucasus, castrated as boys so they could serve without temptation. To you, they're not protectors, they're prison guards. And then there are the stories whispered after dark, when the lamps are out, and there are smells of sweat and rosewater. Tales of girls who insulted the valid sultan, the sultan's mother, and vanished without trace. Some say they were sent back to the provinces in disgrace. Others swear their bones lie under the palace floors, cemented into the very foundation of Topkapi. You start counting. By now, there are hundreds of you, as many as 300 concubines crammed inside these walls at once, all dressed in the same silks, all trained to the same perfection, all fighting for the same prize, a single glance from the Sultan. The numbers alone tell you the truth, most of you will never make it. The joke that keeps you sane, passed between trembling lips. This isn't a harem. It's reality TV with higher stakes. Lose and you're not voted off the island. You're erased. After years of bowing, whispering, and perfecting the art of pouring coffee without a ripple. The day finally comes. You're no longer just another shadow in silk. You're braided, silk robes, worth more than your father's house, are draped across your shoulders. Your hair is drenched in rosewater, your skin dusted with ambergris and musk until you smell less like a girl and more like an offering. You marched in a line of trembling faces into the great chamber, the Sultan's private choosing ground. The Sultan reclines on cushions, silent, expression unreadable. His eyes skim over you the way a butcher inspects lambs before slaughter. One nod from him, and your entire fate is sealed. If he chooses you, eunuchs lift you onto silk cushions and carry you, yes, literally carry you to his chamber. The curtains close. The lamps flicker, and you realize every lesson, every punishment, every humiliation was for this moment. If you please him, you might rise, fail. And you're not just discarded. You're exiled to the old palace Eski, the sprawling, dusty mausoleum of women who once mattered. It's where forgotten concubines go to fade, surrounded by echoes of what they once could have been. For many, that fate is worse than death. And remember this, the Sultan never marries. That's tradition. His heirs are all born of concubines. A single night could crown you as the mother of a prince or erase you entirely. The girls whisper their joke afterward. The only kind of comfort you get in this place? Congratulations. You've been promoted from inventory to consumable. Power through the womb. Here's the rule: they don't whisper, they shout it in your bones. A concubine may never give the Sultan more than one son. One son only. To princes mean to rival thrones and civil war. So the law is simple: deliver one boy, then you're retired to the shadows. Your womb is both your ladder and your lock. If you conceive a son, you've bought yourself power for a time. Without a child, you're nothing more than a perfume-stained rag. With a daughter, you're tolerated, maybe even fed. But with a son, suddenly, you're guarded, fed, bowed to. Everyone remembers your name, but pregnancy is a double-edged scimitar. The moment your belly swells, so does the envy around you. Rivals lace perfumes with poison, slip powders into sherbets, whisper accusations in the valid's ear. Your greatest shield becomes your brightest target. History proves it. Take harem Sultan, once Roxolana, a captured Ruthenian slave girl in the 1520s. She bore Suleiman the Magnificent several children, including a son who became Sultan Selim II. She rose from concubine to his chief consort, rewriting the rules of the empire itself. She was no longer just a woman, she was a queen without the crown. But for every harem who climbed the heights, a dozen nameless girls fell, their babies buried in silence. And towering above all is the valid Sultan, the Sultan's mother. She's the gatekeeper. No concubine rises without her nod. She decides who bears the Sultan's heirs, who advances, and who quietly disappears. Her power is legendary, her smile is a blade. You serve her tea with trembling hands, knowing she couldn't make you with a whisper. So you whisper your own prayer at night, let it be a son. Because in the harem, the cradle is your crown. And the nursery, that's your battlefield. By now, you've learned the harem isn't about silk and song, it's about survival. Every step echoes with whispers sharper than knives. A dropped smile, a misplaced glance, a rumor born in the wrong ear, and suddenly you're not a favorite concubine. You're a liability. The accusations come like thunder. Witchcraft. Treason. Poison. Always poison. That girl who shared figs with you yesterday. She's spreading word you stirred opium into the Sultan's coffee. The eunuchs arrive at midnight with faces carved from stone. They don't bother with trials. They bring a length of silk cord. Always silk, because blood on marble would be vulgar. They loop it around your neck, pull tight, and just like that, you vanish. No scream, no mark, just another ghost in the palace walls. It's not just stories. In the early 1600s, during the reign of Ahmed I, entire wings of the harem were purged when whispers of plots reached the valid Sultan. Women strangled, servants beaten, rivals buried in silence. Later, under Murad IV, paranoia reigned so thick that concubines were executed for nothing more than omens in their dreams. So you learn the real game: alliances, a loyal eunuch who warns you before a raid, a scribe who quietly destroys an accusation before it reaches the valid, a consort who owes you a favor because you once saved her child from spoiled milk. Friends aren't luxuries here, they're life preservers in a sea of sharks. And still, when you lie down at night on cushions stuffed with swan down, your eyes stay open, wide, waiting, because in this palace, sleep is the most dangerous luxury of all. Best advice: sleep with one eye open, preferably both. By now, you've survived the politics, the whispers, even the cord, but what they don't tell you is that survival itself is a sentence. The harem is beautiful. Yes, fountains bubbling with rosewater, walls painted with gold leaf, mosaics glinting like 1,000 tiny suns, silk curtains drift in the breeze, perfumed with musk and cloves. It looks like paradise. Until you realize the gates are locked, and they never open for you. This is your world. Forever. From the moment you entered the Topkapi Palace, you stopped being a person. You became property, sealed in a cage so luxurious it almost hides the bars. Almost. Some concubines never saw the streets of Istanbul again, born in distant villages, dragged here as girls, and buried decades later in palace cemeteries, their lives measured in whispers and silk instead of years. Your daily routine is a performance. Wake up, braid your hair just right, veil your face, bow to the senior consorts, smile at the eunuchs, sing when commanded. Stay silent when expected, every gesture rehearsed, every glance calculated. Forget once, and the rod finds your back. Perform perfectly, and maybe you'll be ignored, which, in here, is the closest thing to safety. And then comes the boredom, long hours staring at the same painted tiles, The same trickling fountains, the same women who'd happily poison you at dinner. You embroider. You recite poems, you learn the art of looking occupied when your soul is withering. But boredom never lasts, and it's always interrupted by sudden terror, a scream in the night, eunuch's footsteps echoing too close to your door. The announcement that another concubine has fallen ill. Everyone knows what that means. They call it a golden cage, and yes, the cushions are soft, the jewels sparkle, the sherbet is sweet, but the cage still cuts. And the gilding. It just makes the blood harder to see. This is the razor edge you've been dancing on since the day they stripped you with lime and rosewater. There are only two paths now: rise or fall. Best case, you climb. You become Haseki Sultan, the Sultan's chief consort, first among hundreds. The title carries power sharper than any blade. Ask Harem Sultan, once just a slave from Ruthenia, who became Sulaiman the Magnificent's closest confidant in the mid-1500s. She dictated imperial policy, rewrote succession laws, and outmaneuvered viziers who thought women were ornaments. History remembers her not as property, but as queen in all but name. That is the dream. That is survival turned into empire. Worst case, a whisper in the wrong ear. Our rivals lie dressed as truth. The accusation can be anything: witchcraft, treason, a poisoned cup of sherbet. The punishment is always the same. They wrap a silken cord around your neck, pulling until the world goes dark. Silk leaves no blood. Your name is scratched from the palace records as if you never existed. The harem is full of girls who lived and died in whispers, their faces erased from paintings, their stories buried in silence. And if you manage to survive until the Sultan himself dies, don't celebrate. You are no longer useful. You are exiled to the Eski Saray, the old palace, a sprawling mausoleum of living women. It is where widowed or discarded concubines go to wither in velvet and boredom, waiting to die behind walls no one bothers to guard. No music, no intrigue, just endless embroidery and the sound of your own breath, growing weaker by the year. This is the truth of your retirement. Not honor, not freedom, just silence dressed in silk. Or, as they might put it with a smile, congratulations, you've retired. Your pension, silence. In the end, most concubines vanish from memory, their names swallowed by the palace walls. No grave, no record, no story, just another shadow among hundreds. Yet the harem shaped dynasties more than any battle or treaty. Sons born in silk chambers went on to command armies, redraw borders, and dictate the fate of millions. That's the irony of your life. You never ruled, but you were the mother of rulers. You were not wife, not servant, not queen. You were something far stranger, a ghost stitched into the empire's bloodline, and seen but undeniable. The palace silenced your voice, but history carries your echo. And here is the question: would you have survived a day in the Sultan's harem if this journey unsettled you? Subscribe, because the past is full of lies they never meant you to remember.